Hey, listeners, welcome back to the ValueHunt podcast. And today I'm truly excited to be here with Joseph, CEO of Tribe Properties. And it will be interesting to learn more about Tribe and what makes them tick. And I have a bunch of questions for Joseph. So, yeah, Joseph, why don't you say a couple of words, maybe explain what Tribe is for the people that might not know, and then we can jump into the questions, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure being with you. Thanks for the invitation. Tribe Property Technologies with the symbol of TRBE on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the Venture Exchange, is a company that I started years ago with the goal of making living in communities, specifically in the condo communities, a lot easier. So we started as a technology company building a suite of products and services and apps for people that live in those either high rise or low rise condos. And then we've grown significantly since we started to actually perform the property management function, which I'm sure we're going to get into today, and using our technology stack. And then we started in 2018 to offer that service in our province, British Columbia first, specifically in Vancouver. And we had very little assets under management, which is a metric that looks at how what the net worth of an asset that you're managing is. So we had zero assets under management, and since 2018 we've been growing. We are fully national across the country, licensed to operate everywhere in Canada, and we have approximately $42 billion of assets under management that we have managed. And the concept of our business really is you digitize the building, you digitize all the workflows around the building with our technology. We have our own people who are licensed to perform the property management service on the property, and that's in the case of a condo. But we've also grown significantly, and we've become the second largest operator in Canada to deliver rental management in addition to condo management. So rental management would be rental buildings whereby we are responsible to find the tenants that live there as well as all the affairs of the building. So we're the first real genuine prop tech company to step into property management at a large scale in Canada and the US, frankly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I must confess that as I was telling you before we press record, I came across your company because I was doing some screens, and your last results were very good. So yeah, probably we'll get into that later. But right now, I'm actually curious to know a bit more on how the licensing works, because I was not aware that this was like a thing. So maybe you could explain to us a bit better how that works. Like, what are the dynamics there? Is that a component of a barrier to entry for competitors? Like, maybe understanding that dynamic would be useful.
Yeah, for those who aren't familiar with the way condos work in Canada, which by the way, Canada now is exporting the method of management to the rest of the world, which is interesting. You don't think of Canada really as the starting point, essentially, of a whole lot of regulations, but just due to the fact that we've got two of the top 10 condo markets in North America just in Vancouver and Toronto. So a lot of buildings have rows. And when people are buying individual units in these pretty expensive and complicated, essentially, buildings, what really happen is you need a third party organization that is licensed to manage the money that is being collected on behalf, the monthly maintenance fee
Mm.
being collected on behalf of all these communities, and actually ensuring that the work that's needed to maintain the building and actually plan for the future of the building. So that would be a lot easier if you had a fourplex with very simple concrete build. But now when you have the Shangri-La with 400 different owners with significant amount of amenities and a significant dollars going through to maintain the building on a monthly basis, it becomes a lot more complicated. So what the Real Estate Council of Canada has done is actually introduce licensing requirements for the companies that are playing in that space. They're not actually too different than the real estate licensing requirements to become a brokerage to sell homes or to sell
Mhm.
condos. It is a little bit more involved because it requires accounting services and it requires you to the do's and don'ts of the funds that you have on behalf of these communities. So in the case of the condo world, we call it strata in Western Canada, condo
Mm.
corporation. In the case of the East in Canada, really what you do is you take over the building, you collect the monthly fees on behalf of the building, you ensure that money is being distributed for the services that are required to maintain the building. But there's actually a significant amount of regulation. It actually runs like a democracy. Believe it or not, that big building elects 5 or 7 or 9 individuals that own in the building, and they make the rules and regulations associated with the building within obviously a framework, and
Yeah.
we manage that on behalf of them. Think of us as the CEO or the chairman of the corporation, and we dictate the desire of the group through the fund disbursement and spending.
Mm. Sweet. Yeah, that helps a lot. And the first question I have here from the audience is, why did you start this business in the first place? I guess you already touched a bit on that in the introduction, but yeah, what was the key driver for you? Like, it's not such a common business, like you said. So
It's
yeah.
certainly not. I actually tell you, it is slightly an interesting story. I'll give you the short version of it. I'm an immigrant to
Hmm.
Canada, and when I first moved here with my family, one thing caught my eye is, how do you get to meet your neighbors? So
Mm.
my previous company solved a different type of problem. I was the CEO of a company called TO Networks, a company that was public and had a great exit. PayPal purchased it, and it was solving a payment problem in Canada and the US.
Mm.
But while I was, experiencing the growth and the number of verticalization, which is a fancy way of saying big buildings coming into the downtown cores and the different parts of the city, the number one complaint everybody had was, well, we don't understand the regulations. We don't know what it's like to live in these buildings, and I don't get to know my neighbors. It's lonely.
Mm.
It's even though the building is full of people, I'm missing opportunities to meet some maybe great neighbors. So we built the company actually with a very strong social layer. Our original software platform, and still have it, has a very strong social layer to connect people that live in these condos. And then as we got deeper and deeper and deeper into solving problems for the people that live in these buildings, we naturally migrated towards delivering full service, which is property management.
Mm. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And thinking of my own experience, I don't know, like maybe 98% of my neighbors, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and never thought about that.
If you
So
lived in a tribe building, David, you would get to know them. You would get to see who they are and what they do, and start events. When the World Cup and the Euros are on. I know this may surprise you because, most people don't think of Canada and soccer, but we actually have a lot of soccer enthusiasts in the country. When the World Cup happens, our application actually lights up because there's people from the French and maybe some of the Italians are playing each other, and they actually reserve the big party room, and they'll have a watch party. So you can see activities like that.
mm, nice, nice, that's interesting. So also a viewer wants to know a bit better, what's the source of your demand, and how could this demand be disrupted. So maybe tell us what's the key driver for demand, and what are the risks there.
Yeah, so a trend that's occurring right now in North America, I would argue around the globe, but certainly in North America, we're seeing a lot of single family homes being sold to developers. So an individual family home and multiple of them are being sold to developers. And these developers are actually rezoning that space, taking down a single family home or 5 or 10 or 20 of them, and actually putting a master plan community. So a master plan community is basically multiple towers, could be different heights, high rise, low rise. The mix of the use could be different. We could have a little bit of retail, some office space. We might even have some social housing or rental building next to two towers. One tower could be luxury, one tower could be middle of the road. So as we see these types of communities developing everywhere in Canada and the US and other parts of the world, but where we are very active is definitely in Canada, that is creating demand. So we go from maybe 10 families living in that neighborhood to anticipated 2,000 families. And envision the complexity associated
Mm.
with the logistics associated with just these people living together, coexisting, and all the stuff that happens around the function of that community. So that's driving quite a bit of demand. The other big driver from a demand point of view on the condo side is existing buildings that are being managed by traditional property management companies. We call ourselves as a tech-backed property management company,
Mm.
and they've heard about us, or they've seen that there's really more need for technology in the building to help prevent issues, educate everyone, connect everyone. So we're seeing quite a bit of demand on that. And on the rental side, which is another division of ours, there's just not enough rental units in Canada. And if you actually were to watch, we just had an election on Monday, and any of the platforms that were put forth by the politicians, each one of them had a housing component. And I'll give you, there's
Mm.
no surprises there. The surprise was really killed because everybody and their dog wants to convince the voters that they are going to bring more housing. How they're going to do it?
Yeah.
It's just affordable housing, and
Yeah.
really affordable housing isn't going to be single unit, villas.
Yeah.
Affordable housing comes in different formats. Obviously, build more to address the significant amount of demand that we have, or build more rental buildings, and all these require companies like us to step in and support it.
Mm. Okay, got you. So this is actually a very good question. Can you walk me through a typical customer journey from initial engagement to full adoption of your platform? What are the key moments that drive value for your users? So yeah, I think this is a pretty loaded question, but I would be happy to see what you have for us.
Yeah, at a high level, what everybody should know about our company is we don't really have what we call customer concentration. We don't
Mm.
just work with one developer. We work with 105 developers
Mm.
building different projects across the country. We don't just work with one condo corporation. We work with about 1,000 condo corporations around the country, and we
Mm.
don't work just with one homeowner or one tenant or a landlord. We work with multiple, tens of thousands, essentially. So I share all that to say that we have so many different customer journeys. However, let's continue building on that example I used. This developer went
Mm.
out and he bought those 10 homes, went to the city and convinced them that he wants to build 1,500 homes, mixed use on a particular large property. Then he will come to us, being Tribe, and he'll say, look, what mix should I consider? I'm allowed to put 700, for example, 700 condos. I'm allowed to put, 400 rental units, some social housing, and some office space. What should I be considering? And we will give them the data from our application, from our existing communities, to let them know you're better off building three-unit
Mm.
rental, three room rental units, because this is an area that requires a lot of family, or it's a lot of professionals. You don't need too many large units. Small units will actually give you a better ROI. We'll give them a lot of data to help them with the amenities that are required. Should you be
Mhm.
building big pools? Should you be building big gyms? Should you be building office space where people that are actually working remotely can use? And then we'll also work with them on the condo side, and we'll actually run all the budgets, even though they haven't built anything. We'll run all the budgets to let them know, as they're speaking to new buyers into the community, what these things will cost. Once that's completed and they've already got the approvals to start construction, they actually use our software for deficiency management to actually manage the different stages of construction as they approach close. Now, in the case
Mm.
of Canada, they actually often pre-sell those units out to the new homeowners. So it could be 2 years out, 3 years out, 1 year out. Those people that actually end up buying a unit who haven't received the home yet will actually download our app, and the developer will communicate directly with them using our app, give them updates about how the units are doing, how the building is doing, the time frame of closing. All their documents are going to be on there. Once they're ready to move in, they actually do what's called a walkthrough. So a developer will walk through with the homeowner to ensure that everything is okay. Of course, most
Mhm.
things are under warranty, if not all things are under warranty. That's already done on one of our apps as well. which is called a walkthrough, PDI, pre-delivery inspection. And then once it's completed, your app as a homeowner turns into the homeowner manual. It actually has all the serial numbers for all your appliances, all the colors that you've chosen, and all the different rules and documentation, amenities, payments, everything is erected on your app. And Tribe steps in, third division steps in as the property management company. And our apps are now used by the concierge, by the property manager, by the homeowners, and by even the developer as they're managing the different versions, essentially, of using the different versions of the warranty items that they have to address. And once it's completed, and I move in and I live there, I'm using the app daily now to interface with the building, book an elevator, speak with my neighbors, or escalate an issue, or receive a package, whatever that different user cases can be. I can also purchase products that are very specific to my needs in the building. For example, we partner with the telecoms here to deliver the TV, internet, phone at a much lower cost. We deliver them security. We have insurance products on the platform. We have grocery delivery. For some buildings that require EVs, and this is a big thing going on right now, electric vehicles are everywhere. We will actually equip the building and give products and services at a discount to the homeowners. So you can see the different versions there. In the case of a rental building, once the building is completed, we will actually go out and using our tech stack and actually put out the units for people to learn about the building and actually ask and apply to come in and live in the building. We screen them, qualify them, and then once we approve them, they can make payment. They move into the unit using our tech, but also they make their payments, rental payments on the platform as well. And then we take them through the journey of being a tenant, and eventually after a year or two, they move out and somebody else moves in. So that's high level what we do, but you envision now all the complexity associated with an older building that might have a new project for a new roof or has an emergency or what have you. We have all the back office, all the technology to manage all these events.
Wow. Yeah. So I have loads of questions on that because I think that's what you said is very, very interesting. I wasn't aware that you were like as much of a one-stop shop as you are, because you basically do the whole process, right? From development to actually like, yeah, the management and all that. So one thing I'm curious about is how much business is coming from new developments versus like existing buildings that you might get into, because you walked us through an example where you actually are already in touch with the developer and all that. But for example, if you were, let's say I live in Canada, if you were to like come into my building, like how would that approach be done, and like, yeah, how does that work and all that?
Majority of our new business coming through the door is existing buildings. This is an
Okay.
existing building that's being managed by a traditional property management company, and the condo corporation or the landlord that owns the rental building, because we have those two different kinds, have decided to move away from the existing traditional model and come to our service delivery model, which is tech heavy. I'd say about 80% of our new business comes that route. However,
Okay.
as developers, we've got contracts with developers for brand new construction. The only issue is these buildings take a long time to be delivered,
Right.
sometimes 1 year, sometimes 3-4 years, or sometimes one community takes 5 years to complete. The first tower comes on, the second tower comes in a year, and so on. So that particular business, we've actually got multi-million-dollar contracts that are signed for the future that we haven't recognized the revenue yet because we're waiting for these buildings to be completed, but those agreements are in place. So you've got this, two routes. One route is existing traditional building that is looking for new management because they're not happy. Their interest rates, forgive me, their monthly fees continue to grow and be a little bit out of control, or they're not happy with the current status of the condition of the building. And at the end of the day, that is your biggest asset that you own. So, you might be gone are the days where a little condo is worth $70,000. Okay. No, that doesn't
Yeah.
exist in Canada. Average condo now is probably north of $600,000. So that's a big asset that you own. And you want to make sure the building is managed properly. So that's why we're seeing a significant amount of push to come our way.
but who actually says, like, makes the decision, right? Because if it's a pre-existing building, you usually either have to contact the CEO of the building, right? So the
Yeah.
or like it's multiple people that have to make the decision.
Yeah, the
So
condo
yeah.
corporation. So think of the condo corporation or the strata as a group of 5 or 7 individuals that are making decisions. They can see the budgets, they can see the health of the building, they are hearing the complaints of the homeowners. And they're the ones that go, okay, well, we've been with this company for 3 years. The budget is blown every year, and we're not very happy with the service level. I hear that there's really good things happening at Tribe, or I saw in a report that Tribe's buildings are actually running at a lower cost than others. Or I've read a digital content piece online about how Tribe, affects a specific problem. We might have an insurance
Mm,
problem, we might have a water filtration problem, whatever the case may be. And they've actually leaned on some of our expertise through some of our digital content, and then they reach out to us. And once they reach out to us, this you'll really appreciate. We have a platform that takes their last 5 years of
mhm,
budgets. It's an AI platform that actually benchmarks how well they're doing compared to their
mm,
peers and their peers that we manage. So we actually say to them, sometimes we will get a building. It doesn't happen often, but believe me when I tell you, it does happen. A building will come to us and say, we're not very happy with the situation we're in. And we will look at their data, take the emotions out of it. We just purely look at the data and the health of the building. And we'll say to them, you're actually in a really good shape. You probably want to think twice or 3 times before you make a move. And
mhm,
they often still come to us because the current provider doesn't have the technology, or they're seeking
mm.
some of the extra features that we have. But sometimes we tell them to stay where they are. They don't need to leave. Their data says that the building is actually in good shape compared to other buildings in the market.
Okay, got it. So just some question here. You basically use all your software and technology in house, right? You don't like sell
Correct.
it. Okay,
Correct.
got it.
We license our tech stack to the developers. So we actually, when developers license our technology to use it day in day out, we license to them for a licensing fee until the building is completed. Then we manage, but we eat our own dog food. So
Mm,
our staff is using our software that we built in house.
mhm. Got it. Perfect. So here's a very important question. What is your churn rate? And I would also add to this, like, how much activity are you actually seeing in your apps? Because you mentioned, like, okay, people can buy stuff on the app, they can rent, like, reserve a room, whatever. So how much of this activity are you actually seeing? And then what's the churn rate
No,
on
great,
your
great
business?
questions. I'll give you a couple of metrics. So we spoke about brand new construction, like brand new
Hmm.
buildings, and we spoke about existing buildings that come to
Right.
us. So a brand new building, 95% of all communication occurs on our platform in a brand new building.
Mm.
Why? Because it's
Mm.
mission critical. It's your manuals, it's
Yeah.
all your warranties, it's when you're moving in. Occasionally, we'll have somebody that doesn't use the tech at all, and we will communicate with them using other tools, maybe an email or a phone call.
Hmm.
95% penetration in brand new buildings. Existing buildings, which means a building that's already been traditionally managed, they moved away from that property management company and came to us. Within 90 days, we'll be at about 70% penetration. So 70% of all affairs of the build, all communication of the building are occurring on our platform. However, all affairs of the building, all payments,
Mm.
everything that's going on is actually 100% of it is happening on our platform. So that gives
Mm.
you a little bit of the two different examples. And then you should think of it this way. So we manage approximately 50 plus thousand homes. That
Hmm.
represents about 100 and let's say 110,000, 120,000 people that live in our homes. Um, we approximately have about 6,000 weekly tickets. So a ticket is a workflow
Yeah.
associated with issues with the building. Some we interface with, some we don't. It gets self-diagnosed and self-fixed on its own through the platform. But just to give you an example of the engagement.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, makes sense. And what's like the churn rate on your solutions? So, like a building that's already a customer, how likely or how frequently does it like
So our
churn away?
churn, usually annual churn, when we look at the percentage of revenue, our
Hmm.
annual churn runs at lower than 5%.
Okay.
So about 5%. People need to know though that as we deliver our services, our prices go not up very quickly, but occasionally they go up. And as they go up,
Hmm.
we price out some of our customers. And if the gross margin of a building isn't if the gross margin of a building isn't at the desired level, we will actually move them on to a traditional company if they're not willing to pay the fee for our services.
Got it. So you have kind of a hurdle right there. So you,
we
yeah.
we kind of move them on nicely to a another company if our service is not suitable for them due to the price hurdle. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, okay, okay. So what are the main barriers to entry in your market, and how does the tribe defend its position against new entrants or incumbents?
Yeah, so philosophically, at a very, very high level, Canada is completely in demand of property managers, licensed property manager. More regulation, more licensing requirements are coming into the country, which means because there's more and more buildings are coming into the country, and we don't have enough licensed property managers. The people that are leaving the profession, retiring, is much higher than the people that are coming into the profession. So in a way, I am desperate for property managers because we've got more
Mhm.
opportunities to sell our products and services. So the only way you can do this is if you actually build technology that allow. Well, first of all, you got to attract young people into the industry, and we try to do that. And we actually train young people that join our company. All of our customer success team have a direct path to become property managers. So
Mhm.
we'll pay for their education. We'll educate them on our platform. We'll kind of train them in the way we deliver the service, which is
Mhm.
much cooler than the old school way where you're sitting in your car with big files. Now you get an iPad, an iPhone, and you're doing things remotely because you don't need to drive everywhere. So
Mhm.
we that's a big part of what we do. The other big part of what we do is the technology itself needs to allow our property managers and our admin staff to do more with less. Instead of managing 3 buildings, manage 5, 10 buildings, because the technology can do a lot of the heavy lifting. So I would say to you, the biggest hurdles are, finding licensed people to do the work and actually getting fully licensed to be on the national footprint. Like right now in Canada, there's only 3 licensed national players. First Service, which is a $10 billion company, Associa, which is a private company estimated somewhere in the $4 to $5 billion, and Tribe, a $20 million company. And we're starting to win more and more market share. And the point I bring that up, not to impress you, just to impress upon you how difficult it is to build a
Mhm.
national footprint, which we
Yeah.
have. And out of those 3 I mentioned, we're the only ones that offer full condo services and rental services. That's what makes our position really unique.
Mm. Okay, got it. Yeah, that's very very interesting. Actually, I was wondering here, what's the average pay for a property manager in Canada, and also what does it take to get licensed? So, do you have to pass an exam? Like, what is it?
Yeah, so in British Columbia and now Ontario, which is Ontario is our largest province in the country, the requirements are slightly different, but generally similar. The average pay, I mean, a property manager can start at a $55,000. This is a junior that hasn't done any work, who just passed
Mm.
their exam. It's about an 8 months exam process essentially. So it's a
Mm.
course that you take, and once you pass the course, we usually most of the entry point or the junior property managers come through our system. So we have them working as on our customer success admin. They like the space. They can watch it. They can see how it's being done. We encourage them to go to school. We pay for it, and then we get them an entry point. So that will be the average entry point. But we've seen
Mm.
property managers that will do 150, $200,000 a year. Depends on their
Mm.
portfolio. Depends on the value that they're adding to their customers. So it can be a very, very good business. And the same goes for the rental. The rental numbers are very similar as well.
Mm. Mm. Got it. Yeah, that's all very very interesting. So, have you considered acquiring related property services such as landscaping, day porter, facility management, fire and life safety, etc.?
So, for those that don't know, we have grown organically, but we've also grown by purchasing other traditional property management companies, not services
Mm,
companies. But we buy property management companies, integrate them into our ecosystem, and actually expand our footprint. So we grow organically and non-organically, and we have two strategies for that. But to answer your question specifically, we have considered purchasing service providers, not in the traditional sense, simply because we have a marketplace for them. So,
yep.
for the fire, for the insurance, for all these different products and services that are needed, plumbing, we just partner with the best in class, and we partner with multiple of them, and we actually make them available on the platform, and we actually clip as needed from an RFP process point of view. Where we have not done is buy a full restoration company or a full handyman services company. We've
Mm,
contemplated it. We reserve the right to make that move if there are services that we're interested in. But to give you and your listeners an idea, or viewers an idea, we manage approximately 600 to 650 million dollars of annual spend on behalf of our buildings. Okay, so every year we collect and disperse that type of money. So we actually are playing a big role in the allocation of where these that money goes and where the services, how these services are being delivered. So yes, we could potentially get into some of these services, but we've resisted and just built a marketplace for them to exist on it.
yeah, and then maybe there will be also some problems like conflict of interest, like you're basically being like a fiduciary for your clients, right? So allocating that money, and yeah, I understand why that
Well
that
said. I
kind
mean,
of.
the largest property management company in North America owns a significant number of service providers. And the number one
Mhm.
complaint would be, why are you giving us one of your services? Why are
Mhm.
you not going out and getting us multiple quotes? And
Yeah,
you hear that right across the country. So what we want to stay impartial, but what we will probably do is make moves in markets where there's absolute desperation for a specific type of service. Man,
right,
there's
right,
just
right.
no handyman in this market. It's
Mhm.
impossible to find them, as an example. Or make a move in a Internet of Things or products that can actually improve the operations of the building with new technology that we can bring in. You'll see us be very active in that.
Got it. A question I had from before. So you also manage the payments for the rentals, right? So I'm
Correct.
curious to know how much volume do you have in payments annually from these rentals, and whether or not you have a take rate on those, like, or is it like just part of the, let's say, offering?
We receive a percent of the rent roll. That is how we get paid from a
Hmm.
landlord. If you're a
Hmm.
landlord or a REIT that owns 10 buildings in the city and we manage all those buildings for you, our revenue is actually a percent of the
Hmm.
rent that we collect for you. On our platform, you are able to make payments. And you asked the question about how much we collect. We collect somewhere in the neighborhood of about a couple $100 million annual rent. Okay, that's
Hmm.
the current number. I may be off by a little bit, but as of a couple of quarters ago, we're in that rate, maybe a little bit more now. And we make a percentage of that rent roll. That is how we actually ensure that it's a win-win for us and the landlord. So
Right.
if vacancy is really low and we've been able to keep all the units full and that people are happy, then we actually make more money.
Got it. Got it. I like that win-win kind of dynamic. So, coming back to acquisitions, what is your acquisition strategy, and how are you integrating these acquisitions into your business? So, I guess one of the things I learned from talking with CEOs is that integrating the first acquisition is the hardest kind of thing to do, but then you have the playbook, and then it's easier. So maybe you can first talk a bit about the acquisition strategy, and then what what have you learned in integrating those?
Yeah, I mean, look, on paper, what you said makes sense. I wish I could say that it always works like that. We're always learning. The playbook is always getting edited after every acquisition. You're always
Mhm.
learning new things, especially if you're really active. It's one thing to make one or two, three acquisitions. We've done 14 and we continue to be very active. So the idea that the playbook is completely 100% signed, sealed, delivered, closed, it's probably not
Mhm.
a true statement. It's always getting updated and getting more interesting. Our strategy is straightforward. You acquire a business for two main reasons or two potential reasons. One, you really like the way it's operating, so you like its dynamic, its
Mhm.
financial throughput, and it complements your activity in a market. So you're in Vancouver, and there's a competitor of yours. You like their dynamics, you like the numbers, and you think 1+1 = 3. Then you acquire them. The other main reason for us is geographical footprint growth. So there's demand for our services in every market that exists in Canada and the US. So when there's that demand, it is more difficult to go and set up shop in a new market, go get licensed, bring what's called a managing broker, get all the compliance set up, then put your marketing machine out to start acquiring customer after customer. It's actually easier to move in, acquire an asset in that market, fully licensed, ready to go, despite the fact that you may not love its margins, you may not love its dynamics, and then you set up that shop, rebrand it, put all your tech integrated in it, and then you actually make that your beachhead essentially to launch your further services, which that's the model that we've elected to do. The only market we've started in cold was Vancouver, our original. Everything else we've
Mhm.
done was through acquisitions. So the dynamics of that is also interesting. But as we mature as an organization, you alluded earlier about us hitting profitability. Wow, that
Mhm.
was a function. It wasn't a function of bad operations. It was a function of
Mhm.
we're spending so much money to build a national footprint that we had to actually
Mhm.
make sacrifices on the profitability side. Now that
Right.
we've built our national footprint, now that every division of ours is growing in the different markets, we have the ability now to go make accretive acquisitions. And that's what we've done in the last couple, where we're actually buying service providers or property management companies in markets we operate already, but they're profitable. And they really just enhance our profitability. And we've got our own metrics on how we buy them, how we measure it. And for those, that I don't think it's going to surprise anybody. When you're a acquirer in the space, in any space, you really got multiple separate currencies. You've got cash, you've got stock in your business, which we think we're incredibly undervalued. So we don't give too much of that stock away at this
Mhm.
point, unless we really, really like the company. And you've also got what we call vendor takebacks or earnouts, where you
Mhm.
bring in leaders of the organization or the founders of the organization that you purchase and let them know over the next 2 or 3 years if they hit all the numbers based on all the support we give them, they actually earn out that stuff. But the other currency, which is another interesting thing, is what you do with the business and your reputation acquiring that business.
Mhm.
And, there are people that will not sell to national players just because of
Mhm.
what they do to the business. They come in, they bring a machete, they start chopping and
Mhm.
cutting and treating everybody like a number. Whereas we turn usual companies that we buy from defense to offense. We take
Mhm.
them and say, look, you've been flatlined for 2 years. You lost 10% of your business. You gained 10% new business. We're going to rebrand you. We're going to put you on the offense. We're going to actually push you to grow the business, push you in a good way because we have a good marketing machine, new brand, new technology. And people like that a lot. The sellers really like that because it provides their staff with an opportunity to grow with the business versus stay in
Mhm.
a flat line or sell to another company that's going to come in and just chop, chop, chop.
Mm, got it. So, how are you thinking about valuation in these acquisitions? What sort of payback are you looking at? Like, do you have any strict rules around that? Multiples, maybe, I don't know.
We do. We strictly in rental and condos are different, but you'll have seen our last a couple of acquisitions are running at about between 5 to 7, 5 to 8 times EBITDA, and that's pre-normalization. However, the word normalization is loaded here. The way we
Mm.
normalize EBITDA is different than somebody from the street normalizing EBITDA.
Uh,
So we can see immediately things in the business that we can extract out using a lot of our tech, a lot of our solutions. We can actually move on staff into different departments, make them more valuable for the business with higher gross margin. So we do have that multitude. Occasionally, you'll come across an asset that you really really want, where you can break the rules a little bit to extend and bring them in. One of the biggest things I've learned about just high level, one of the most important things I learned about acquisitions is you cannot chase the perfect multiple if the asset
mm,
is really valuable to your business now. like
mm,
like sometimes just sacrifice the multiple a little bit, because that asset in your midst is worth a lot more than the multiple that
mm,
you're haggling over. So sometimes I will look at that and make that decision.
mm. Okay, okay. Makes sense. So, what do you see as the key growth drivers going forward? The valuation of Tribe seems to imply a bit of growth. So, yeah, maybe you can guide us through that.
Yeah, we're incredibly undervalued. The estimation of our revenue this year is between 32 to 34 million dollars of recurring revenue, and we're trading at a 20 million dollar multiple. So $20 million valuation. So you can do the math in your head and see how undervalued we believe we are. The
Mhm,
growth drivers for us will continue to be very active in M&A, but we'll also continue to be very active in organic growth and selling more products into the home. So if you and I were having this conversation 2 years ago, I would have
mm,
been saying to you, look at our monthly recurring revenue. It's fantastic. We're at $24, $25 per month per door, like recurring. And look, we're starting to sell products and services into the building. And that number would have been at about $2 or $3 per month per door. So if you went back 2 years, that would have been our metrics.
mm,
Today, as of last quarter, which we shared with the street, we did $40. We went from 20, mid 20s to $40 per month per door, and $10 of transactional revenue, products and services that we sell into the unit or into the building. So the model is really, really working. So that is, our growth isn't in the number of homes that we manage only. That is a big part of what we
mm,
do. But also it's in how much are we able to sell products and services into the building, into the community. And there's just no shortage of categories. I mentioned earlier EVs, like electric vehicles. Well, we've
yeah.
got buildings where 15, 20% of the homeowners have electric vehicles. Well, no developer is building 20% of their parking lot, the parking spots with charging, solutions. So there might be three or four versus 20 or 30. So these solutions that we keep bringing in as an example, and they're sophisticated. They're not as simple as punching a hole in the wall and putting a charger. You have to
Mm,
sub-meter it. You have to make sure the load is there. You have to throttle up and down based on the time of the day. So we bring a lot of these sophisticated solutions and generate and clip more revenue as we go on.
mm. Okay, okay. Got it. So that's a fivefold growth in transactional revenue in 2 years, right? So yeah,
Correct.
pretty crazy. So how do you think about profitability going forward? What caused the inflection in the last quarter, and do you expect this trend to continue?
Yes, what caused the trend is we told the street always we were going to build a national footprint. We were going to invest heavily in our infrastructure to support a national deployment, which we were able to do successfully. I told the street that we were probably going to hit profitability in Q1 2025. We moved it up by a year. You will see the trend. I mean, bits and pieces, and a couple hundred grand here and there in terms of delta because of seasonality of the market. There are some products and services that we sell more of in Q4 versus Q1, or some expenses that we recognize in Q1 for the whole year. But generally, yes, we have turned a corner on profitability. The street always speaks to 10 to 15% EBITDA numbers with us. I've always told the street I think a fully cooked model, which we're still working on, but we're getting there. A fully cooked model in 26 will I believe will hit 50+% gross margin and about 20% EBITDA. I really do think we're going to start seeing that in one of the quarters of next year.
Okay, so my next question was actually, do you have any targets for where you want to be in terms of EBITDA margins over the next few years? So I guess you
There you
you
go.
you anticipated that question. So who is your shareholder base and how active are they in like the day to day stuff?
Yeah, I mean, myself and one of our one of our top executives in the company, Scott, probably in the 13% ownership, and then so it's the operators of the business. We have Propeller, which is one of Canada's largest and most successful growth fund out of Toronto. Owns about 25% of our company and participated in the last number of rounds. And by the way, myself
Mhm.
and my top executives and our board have participated in the last number of rounds as well, where we actually wrote checks into each one of those rounds. And then we have Peterson. The Peterson Group is a large shareholder of ours as well. They're the guys that are behind a number of hotels and developments in Canada. We have TY and Sons, which is a family office out of Vancouver that I've known for years, and they've been also involved in every one of our rounds that we've done. So we've got a really great shareholders. We don't have customer concentration or shareholder concentration as it pertains to our business. It's not like we have one
Yeah.
of our shareholders that represents 10 or 15% of our business. Actually,
Mhm.
nobody's bigger than 1% of our business. So really, our business is completely diversified, built on the love and care and support of our shareholders, but not on their business. If that makes any sense.
Mhm. Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. So my last question from the audience, and we had a lot of questions from the audience today. So I don't know if you have some extra time for my questions, but if not, we can always do a
No
part two.
worries at all. I've got time for you. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So the last question from the audience is, can you guide us through who your board members are and what expertise do they bring to Tribe?
Yeah, no, that's a great, fair question. So we have Alex Yaninski and Sanjeev Saman. Sanjeev is the managing director of the Propeller Fund I mentioned earlier. He's incredibly a close friend now, and obviously works very, very closely with me on any types of transactions that are coming through. We have Raven Choi, who represents the Peterson Group. He's a CPA and he is the CEO of Peterson Group. But the reason we love having him as a part of our ecosystem is simply because of his accounting background and also the ability to drive massive value and understanding transactions that we're embarking on. We have Charmaine Crooks, an ex-Olympian, incredibly successful businesswoman. She actually has a silver medal in the Olympics, and she's turned into an incredible businesswoman since she left her athletic career, and she is a monster as it pertains to compliance and understanding and ensuring our organization on our comp committee and all the activities associated with compliance. She's done an incredible job for us, and I've known her for many, many years. Myself, I am on the board as well. And obviously I've done a ton of M&A and in my previous business, we had a great exit. So I've been able to add value operationally to the business there. We have, you see, am I missing somebody else on the board? I probably am. Andrew Kegel, chairman of the chairman of our audit committee, done a ton. He's public markets gentleman. He is the CEO of his own public company, as well as gives tremendous insights into, every time we go raise capital, what's the market looking like and the trends. And Mike Willis is our chairman. He's currently the CFO of one of the largest EV battery manufacturers in the US, in the globe, really. And I've known him for years, great friend. The only thing we don't see eye to eye is I support Manchester United. He supports Liverpool. Other than that, he's a great person and a fantastic resource to the business as well.
Nice, nice. Okay, so we'll actually get into your soccer or football, as we call it here in Europe, addiction. But first, before that, I would like to thank you for giving Naples McTominay, because my dad is from Italy, and obviously I support Naples, so he has done a fantastic season, and without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. So.
I am not happy about it. Look at us. We're like 14th or 15th in our league and Naples. And I don't know if you can see it. This is right there is a photo
Oh
of
yeah,
Maradona.
Maradona.
Maradona walking in Naples with all that. So, yes, we have a soft spot for Napoli any day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually saw that in a previous interview, and I was like, "Well, that's Maradona." And then, yeah, actually, it was
Yeah, I have
Maradona.
another
So,
big one here of George Best as well. So,
oh, okay, cool, 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 awesome. So, yeah, my questions usually are more around like your past experience, who you are as a person, and all that. So, I'm really just curious to know what you enjoy doing outside of work, and maybe you could expand a bit more on how you got hooked into football and soccer. Obviously, you're an immigrant into Canada, so maybe
correct.
that has something to say about that. But yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in Alexandria, Egypt, and we were very. I left when I was 16 years old as an immigrant family looking for a better opportunity. We grew up as a part of the Coptic community in Egypt, which is the Orthodox Christians, and
Hmm.
it was amazing, but it came with some challenges, as one can imagine. I came to Canada just, I was a good little football player, so that paid for my scholarships and schooling. I studied civil engineering and civil and structural engineering. And after that, I studied business. So football was a big part of my path, and it kept me out of trouble. And what I like to do outside of work, believe it or not, I'm a founder, one of four founders of one of Canada's largest amateur clubs here called Burnaby FC. So I sit on the
Hmm.
board of that, and I'm very active in coaching the district at the district level, at the U21 level, and the men's and women's level. So I'm active there. It keeps me busy. I also sit on a another board football club, professional football club out of Ireland, actually. I know it's kind of an odd thing, but it allows me an opportunity for the young kids that are coming out of Canada to get a chance to a bridge into Europe. I'm hoping to do the same in Portugal as well. I think it's a hotbed for incredible talent both ways. Portuguese kids coming
Hmm.
to North America to pursue schooling, maybe, and vice versa, and Canadian kids to pursue a European experience. I do a lot of that. I'm father of three kids. All three play soccer. My wife plays soccer. I play soccer. I
Wow.
play old man soccer, but I still play. And so we're a very football heavy family. That's really what I spent most of my time on. Just give back to the community within that lens. And from a business point of view, I don't really have multiple businesses. Kind of really just head down, focused on creating incredible value for our shareholders and ourselves here in the organization. I think we're embarking on something pretty special.
Pretty cool. Yeah. It's interesting. Like soccer is such a like I can't understand how people don't like the sport. Is like I don't know, just
Yeah.
great. I guess it really gives you. I guess sport in general gives you a lot of energy for other stuff, right? I don't know how I could live without sports in any way. So.
Yeah, well said. I mean, look, our North America. I mean, globally, obviously, football is a or soccer is a beloved sport. I look at it from the lens of course, we all like. I was there in the World Cup when I watched. I was very lucky to go to the quarterfinal games, semifinals, and the final. Okay, so we had that
Mm,
out of body experience. You watched that final game and how amazing it was.
mm,
And it was the most watched,
yeah.
apparently, World Cup game ever. So that is incredible. But really what I absolutely love about the sport is it just allows anybody that can, it's very cheap. All you need is just pair of cleats. You would argue you could even need those, a little round thing, and then you can actually play. And it isn't all
Mhm.
about the money and how much it costs and all that stuff. And And we're so proud of of the work that we've done here in our community and allowing these kids that usually would not have an opportunity to play a sport. Like hockey is incredibly expensive, and many other
Mm-hmm.
sports are just, they require so much capital. And but we want to keep these kids out of harm's way. We want them to be focused on, like I always said, listen, maybe I wasn't partying so hard in college and university on Friday nights and Saturday nights simply because I had to play next morning. I couldn't
Yeah,
go out there and not have my body in top shape. And it does
yeah.
keep you on that straight, line until you're old enough to make your own decisions. So that's really why I love the sport so much.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. 100%. Okay, so another question I have for you is actually what kind of mistakes have you made in the past as a CEO or executive? And yeah, what did you learn from those mistakes? How did you address them and all of that?
I mean, to be honest, that would be another hour of a podcast. We can do that.
Hmm.
But the truth of the matter is, the biggest takeaways essentially are: one, I alluded to earlier, in the case of M&A and acquisitions, don't get too cute.
Hmm.
There's two costs. There's a cost that you believe that the company is as it stands, and then there's a cost of the seller, what he thinks his company is worth. But there's a third cost. The third cost is how much is that company in your midst if you get your hands on it and actually do what you want to do to it. So be flexible and don't get too cute. Don't let a deal take 2 years to come over the line. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. Sometimes you just might be dealing with a difficult situation. So I get that. But overall, like, make the move if you're completely clear on the value that this company brings to your business. So that's one that would be the takeaway. And then there's also, the concept of hiring the right people, taking your time, getting to
Hmm.
know them, making that investment. When you're looking for a person in a critical space, you are so incentivized to make the hire quick because you're in pain. You want that spot filled, and
Hmm.
but you could actually do it quickly. And if you do it quickly and you don't get to know the person, that's a problem. So you don't get married that way. You get to know the person, and you don't make your decision on uh, on marrying a person based on the first or second date. You take time. You get to know each other,
Hmm.
and I would argue that is a mistake that I've made before, but others have continued to make in different industries. And you really need to get the comfort level to see that person in different situations. And then, if God forbid you make the mistake and you hire the wrong person, just make the move quickly, move
Hmm.
them on quickly. It's just too expensive otherwise.
Right. Okay. Okay. Got you. So, my next question is: how does it feel to be a CEO of a public company, especially
Mm.
one that's basically still in the early stages of its story? Hopefully. So, yeah. Maybe
Yeah,
that would be interesting.
it's a good question. I mean, the truth is, in an operating business with its complexity versus a junior mining, or, and I'm not saying those are easier. I'm just saying in pre-production,
Mm,
pre-operation, it is a very complicated space simply because you're managing a business. It's like I said, it's a business going to do 32, 33, $34 million of revenue annually, thousands of customers, and the operation, the machine on a national level is competing as a multi-billion-dollar organizations,
yeah.
So you have to be on your toes, and then you've got all the public requirements in addition to, managing the street's expectations, or in our case, we like to think we're surpassing the street's expectations.
Mm,
And then on top of all of it, you have this report card that you really almost couldn't control most of the time. We get a report card every day based on our stock price that tells us what our valuation of a business is. And I would argue that President of the United States has more influence on that than I do today.
mhm,
Now,
yeah.
so in a bizarre way, you're like, well, oh, microcaps are getting killed on the market. And you're like, well, but we're a good company. I get
Uh,
why a lot of microcaps and M&A activities have gone out and raised a lot of capital and didn't buy well and they're not operating
uh,
well. But we're a good one. Why are we being painted by the same brush? So you have to get over that hurdle and remember one thing: good businesses do well. Just keep
Mm-hmm.
building a good business, focus on the fundamentals, yet weather the storm of those waves. As you go deeper into the water and you get bigger, it becomes easier. The cruise
Mm-hmm.
ship does not experience the turbulence that a small little boat experiences. And as you
Right.
grow in the business and stabilizing it, and you're going deeper into the sea, things get easier and you get a lot more control and you become more strategic. So we're in that stage, to be quite frank, and it's reflected in our low valuation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it, got it. So, what motivates you in your role as CEO, and why? Yeah, why do you wake up every morning and say like, okay, let's go and do this?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a good question. I've been asked that question multiple times by my own family and others. The truth of the matter is, what motivates me is growth. And when I say growth, it isn't, growth of the salaries or net worth or anything like that. It's really the growth to impact more people. Like if you create, you build, if you believe that what you've built is best in class, and if you believe what you've built makes people's lives better, the buildings that use our technology and we manage are better, in better health, and the people that live in our buildings are happier and have a bigger safety net for the future, then I'm waking up every morning wanting that to be more and more impactful. I want to touch more people. I want our technology to be there managing more buildings. That's really what keeps me, going. And is that type of growth, and that's why we're going to be very selective. And when we bring people on board, we buy companies. They have to have the exact same vision, and sometimes it,
Mm,
it isn't aligned, and we just move on.
okay, okay, got it. This one is a bit of a deeper question, so yeah, feel free to answer however you want. But in general, what do you fear?
um, I fear not seizing the opportunity. I fear, like, I genuinely believe, from a business point of view, I believe we've put we've built great technology, we've acquired great companies, we have a great base, and I just fear missed opportunities. I fear, like we say in football, everything goes back to football. When you're
Mm-hmm.
dominating a game and you're on top of your game and everything's going great, but your striker keeps missing those easy chances, and in your head you're like, I fear that these come and bite us. you know,
Yeah, yeah,
we've all been there, right? And you're like,
yeah,
oh, we look great. The team is looking great. We're up 1-0, and we're doing well. Everything's great, and we should be up 2 or 3 or 4, but we're not. So I fear. That's what I fear. I fear missed opportunities. My fear gets more tempered as we go, simply because, as I mentioned, as you get bigger, you got a platform that gives you a lot more stability. But that's really, at the end of the day, what I fear. I fear not hitting what I mentioned in my last answer about definition of success is growth, and I want us to get there, and don't I don't want stupid problems to get in the way. You know what I mean? Because
mm-hmm. Yeah.
fundamentally the business is strong. We've addressed it. The go-to-market strategy is very good, and the demand on our services continues to be there. We're a greenfield. So what stresses me out is us not scoring the sitters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, makes sense. So what could actually, I guess, make you delay that destination of growth, or like what could get in the way of your growth path, and actually, yeah, maybe disrupt that?
Yeah, I mean, look, the truth is we are tariff proof, recession proof, interest rates proof. People always have to live in buildings and communities. And
Mm-hmm.
if anything, it's not like more and more people move into single units. They're not. Nobody's moving into single family homes anymore. The trend is definitely
Mm-hmm.
going towards density. So that will always be in place, and I don't get too stressed about it. What I worry about is our ability to execute at a sufficient enough speed to deliver the value that I want for the business. I see a direct path to $100 million of recurring business, and I just
Mm-hmm.
don't want things to continue to show up to delay us from hitting those incredible metrics that I think the company's worthy and capable of. And touch wood, so far so good. But at the end of the day, I'd be a liar if I said I just walk out and and in my head it's just beautiful music and butterflies everywhere. I'm constantly worrying about blindside, essentially.
Uh, nice. Okay. So last two questions. One is, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I mean, I'm assuming you meant the company. I think I see
Yeah.
the company in 10 years. I'll be quite honest and direct. I think this company will get bought by a large private equity firm that will want to replicate that model around the globe. So I don't think we're going to get to see 10 years. I think it'll be quicker than that. I'm
Mhm.
going to resist it unless the number is so good for our shareholders that it'll be difficult to say no. But the truth of the matter is we're building quite a bit of value here. So I think in 10 years, not sure I'll have another big startup, but I hope I'm still involved and growing the business. Otherwise, I'd like to be coaching, a soccer team.
Nice, nice. Actually, I was I wanted to ask you about like what the about the possibility of being acquired, and I'm glad you said that because I forgot. But yeah, it's interesting. And why do you say private equity? Maybe why doesn't like a bigger competitor like you mentioned before, one of those two
Yeah,
that also have?
that's on the table. I just think the multiples we will demand are going to be likely met with somebody like a private equity or a large family office. But I
Hmm.
don't know what the future holds.
Right.
As long as the multiples are fair to our shareholders, then I think I'm sure the board will look at everything and the shareholders will make their own decisions. But yeah, so that's what I would say. But the one thing I'll say about private equity, just high level, is that if I said to you who is disrupting transportation, you'll name somebody. If I said to you who's disrupting, financial transactions, you'll name somebody. If I said who's disrupting food delivery, you'll name somebody. I can go on. But if I said to you who's disrupting property management, which is $120 billion annual industry in Canada and the US, you couldn't name anybody, right? Like there's no
Hmm.
big player in the space. So somebody will win the space. We like
Yeah.
our chances because we are the one-stop shop, most comprehensive solutions that actually work in multiple geographies. So we think that puts us at the front of the line. And it's a replicatable model. So especially with M&A, so we think we are going to attract, we're going to be up there in terms of as a consolidation player. And, it's going to require deep pockets to go and execute on it. But it's honestly, it's a multi billion dollar opportunity. It's a monster opportunity that nobody's been able to harness yet.
Hmm. Got it. And so would it actually be possible for you to replicate the same model like in the US or other countries?
Yeah, we've resisted actually doing that just because of I don't want to say lack of resources, but also the desire for us to concentrate quite a bit on our growth pattern. But absolutely, we've had significant amount of interest from the U.S. to replicate it. You couldn't name a company that was doing what we're doing in the U.S. You could name ones that are doing just rental and a little bit of ones that are just doing condos, but there isn't anybody doing it as a one-stop shop right across the platform. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's absolutely there. We've resisted it. We obviously, as you know, there's some interesting conversations and dialogue happening between our two countries right now, Canada and the U.S.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm not ready to be a standing wolf saying, "Oh, we're ready to expand into the U.S." Although when the opportunity does come, you'll see us there.
nice. Okay. Perfect. So last question I always end up with is, how often do you check the company's stock price?
Truth of the matter is, once a day and sometimes once every 2 days, but I don't sit down. I don't have it up and running. You know, we our volume has improved significantly. The exposure of the companies is improved significantly. I only do it to be honest, so I don't sound dumb if I'm speaking to an investor and I'm completely off on the price. But the daily price of the stock is not stressing me out. It's not a source of it does not dictate what my day looks like. Building
Uh-huh.
a business dictates what my day looks like. But I do need to keep an eye on it just simply so I can speak appropriately. So if you said to me, I don't want to give you the price of last week versus
Yeah, yeah.
versus today, but really, at the end of the day, great companies just do well. That's just the bottom
Right,
line.
right, right. Okay, perfect. So it was a wonderful conversation. I hope the listeners also enjoyed it. And let's keep this going. And next time you have some, yeah, interesting news to share with us, or just want to update us on the business, yeah, feel free to reach out, and happy to take you back. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. And have a look at us for you and your listener. TRBE on the TSX venture. We again think we're a good little diamond in the rough. Thanks for giving us some exposure. I really appreciate it. I love the conversation.